Good morning. I'm Marion LaSalle and my co-host Russ Johns. This is the Future Media Association's TV show, Future Media TV. And today we have a wonderful guest, a very good friend of Russ Johns, and a masterminder. Is that what you call yourself, a masterminder?
I'll take it.
Boris.
Anything in that vicinity, right?
Uh-huh. Yeah. It sounds a little Pinky and the Brainish, but I love that show, so.
Well, we're glad that you're here, and we can't wait to hear some of your marketing ideas. I understand from Russ that you're just a genius. So you have a lot to live up to today.
Thanks for setting the expectations low, Russ. I appreciate it.
Yeah. The bar's always moving, right?
We're here every Tuesday and Thursday morning at 8:30, from 8:30 to 9 Central Time. And every Tuesday night, we have a media Q&A where you can come in and ask any kind of questions that you'd like about media. I don't care what you want to do with it. If you want to edit it or market it or develop it, that's the kind of things that we want to talk about on Tuesday night. So come on in and join us. So let's get started. Russ, why don't you introduce your friend and tell us a little bit more about him?
Yeah. Boris, thank you so much for being here. I'm excited for this, and I wrangled you into this, and I know you have a deadline and you got some other things going on, so I appreciate your time and patience with us interrogating you on the air here. Now, from what I want to share with everybody is Boris is multidimensional, and one of the things that Boris has been doing is helping nonprofit organizations, nonprofit organizations really up their game in their marketing and their media department, and putting their brand together, their websites, and some of the strategies that they need to get organized in an online world. And as long as I've known Boris, we could talk about, you may have seen Boris elsewhere. So if you see him and you think about what I'll just plant that seed and I'll leave it there. So the funny thing is, though, is in the marketing world, Boris has really got a lot of great ideas, and I want to talk about the platform that you're doing right now and helping others with the .org strategy, Boris. And you've got some development going on right now with some videos and things like that. Talk a little bit about and thank you for being here, and then talk a little bit about what you're doing with .org strategy, and what was the seed that got planted when you decided to take on this new adventure, and go down this path helping nonprofits. What prompted you to do this?
So thank you very much for that intro, and thank you both for having me here today. I'm delighted to be able to share whatever knowledge I have accumulated over my years of working in this space and with nonprofits specifically. I'm just going to lower that bar a little bit as Russ jumped it up there. And I do now feel the need to explain what he meant by "you may have seen me places." So as I like to tell people, I'm a recovering actor and filmmaker. I had a career in Hollywood. If you could call it a career, I'm not sure, but I've appeared a few places. And really, my training is a combination of computer science, which is what I started out in, and theater and performance and storytelling, really. So I've been able to now bring those two seemingly disparate fields together to create storytelling for nonprofits as well as for some for-profit clients in the online space. Really helping them focus their messaging, get stories across to the people that they need to reach, so that they could have a greater impact. Why .org strategy specifically? So when I was transitioning back into full-time working in this space out of the filmmaking space where I spent all my money and decided, okay, it's time to give to society and make money, I actually started working with a fairly decent-sized nonprofit out in Los Angeles. And I have always been following all the trends and noticed that they didn't necessarily know all the best practices, in the communications department there. And most nonprofits don't even have a communications department. They were lucky that they did. But, people had their specialties, but they didn't have the capacity to keep up with all the latest trends and all the latest tools and devices that are available to them. And so when I came in, I was thrilled to be able to contribute that and to sort of take their online game to the next level. As I then transitioned into a consulting role working with different kinds of organizations, I noticed that other nonprofits, which I've since worked with several, that other nonprofits have a similar issue, if not even worse, because they are always strapped for resources, strapped for cash, strapped for human resources, strapped for time. And so to have somebody there full time that can do all these things is a major challenge for them. They would rather be spending their money on their mission most of the time.
Right.
And a lot of them can't afford someone like me, frankly. I'm lucky that I've found some great clients, but many can't afford someone like me full time. So I decided to create .org Strategy as a way to disseminate a sort of a one-to-many model rather than one-on-one, so people don't have to pay me my hourly rate. They can take the courses that I'm creating on there, learn from them at their own pace and at a much lower price than hiring someone like me.
Oh, I love that. That way we get to experience you, even if we can't afford you. That's fantastic.
Well, and the other thing about it, and I think that it's really fascinating, Marion, and you can appreciate this, is because, all of these volunteer organizations, they need some leadership in the marketing role, because their whole function is to acquire funding to keep their organizations going. And if you don't have the leadership like Boris can deliver, then it gets off track and you're thinking, okay, well, we're just flailing here. But with someone like Boris in the .org Strategy, what you have is an opportunity to expand that vision, that market, that idea, and grow on that and help the organization out in a bigger way without having the full-time impact, right? The impact of a full-time employee, which is huge. And I think it sounds like a lot of nonprofits are open to the idea, Boris. Can you talk a little bit about what the reaction's been and the response has been from some organizations that you've worked with? Sure.
So I've, as .org Strategy is just still evolving, I've tested out the materials, if you will, on a few organizations and people who work with different organizations. And so far, I have to humbly say that the response has been overwhelmingly positive.
I bet.
Yeah, there's a lot of gratitude for this type of information, because I'm not just telling them, okay, take out a Facebook ad and run it for X amount of days at X amount of dollars. What I'm actually trying to help them do is understand the philosophy behind online marketing, the philosophy behind branding and storytelling, and how they could really expand their mission online rather than just use a web page, which unfortunately still a lot of nonprofits do, as a brochure. It's a big online brochure that says, here's what we do, please give us money. And as we know, increasingly that does not work, right? Audiences need to be engaged. They need to feel like they are part of the story in order to then give back to the storyteller in this case and contribute. Well, I love the idea that you mentioned storytelling, because that's one of the things that we love to do in streaming media. Podcasting is all about story. Ultimately, humans as a species are storytellers.
Well, that's why all the sitcoms and all the reality TV shows are so popular, because it pulls you into their story. Mm-hmm. And sometimes when you have a live show, the stories are real, and you feel like you're part of their story. Yeah. I had a incident where I was sitting next to, I should say, a very popular sitcom actor, and I felt like I knew him. He didn't know me from Adam, but I looked at him and I know who you are. I mean, it was his real personality that he was showing on the TV show, pulling me into his story, and it just makes us feel better. Yeah, and that's a huge part of branding as well. I have made that mistake where I have literally approached people who I thought I knew, perhaps I worked with in the past in entertainment, and said, hey, how are you? And realized that, nope, I know them from television. Right. It was a weird feeling, I got to be honest. It was like, I don't know where I know you from, but I know you from somewhere, right? Oh, I even patted him on the leg. I said, hey, how's it going? I thought I knew him. And he looked at me like, okay. Yeah. And a super fan.
that's actually a great analogy as well for branding, right? You want a certain association with your logo, with your tagline that people are instantly going to connect to and feel like they're a part of that story, feel like they can recall an emotional, sensorial almost reaction to your brand. That's, the most powerful thing you can have.
Oh, that's big.
Yeah.
Boy, if people could understand that, I think this is going to change marketing. If they haven't already changed over to the buy my stuff.
Yeah.
Well, that goes back to, and we've all been in the industry long enough to understand that, and you mentioned it, Boris, is this you put up the website and it's essentially a reproduction of the brochure they had to hand out to people before websites were available.
That's right.
And it's been, a single dimension, nothing there, and it's really simple, and it's just a contact sheet. And I think people right now, especially in this day and age where, mobility is really key, people want access now, they want answers. There's no shortage of information out there, and people are getting used to that fact of I can just get on my phone and get an answer.
Yeah.
And if your site and your branding and your marketing isn't able to provide that answer, they're going to go somewhere else.
Absolutely.
And it's the same way with receiving money. I mean, ultimately, you're going to be able to receive a lot more money if there's no friction to deliver money to your organization. And that's going to be done through branding and marketing and some of the media tools that you're going to implement or recommend that they implement along in their organization.
Boris, if you're going into a nonprofit agency for the first time and you're looking around, what are you noticing? What is it that you need to take notice of in order to help them create stories?
Well, oftentimes my first several meetings will be about the organization, getting to really understand what it is they do and who their target demographic is. Because again, they're nonprofits. Everybody, in my experience, most of the people that go into working for nonprofits, they go in because they love it. They go in because they want to give back to society. They go in because, they got an education in certain areas. Perhaps it's a theater company or it's a research organization of some sort or other, and that's their forte. And usually the person, the newest person, the last person in, oftentimes is the intern or the associate that is young, and so they're going to handle the Facebook and they're going to handle the website. But that's not their training.
That's right.
So the first thing I'll do with them is I'll sit down or have a video chat with them and just go over what is it that your organization does and how can we best present that and expand that really online. And I talk to them in marketing terms that I translate for nonprofits specifically. So in marketing, we have the target demographic profiles, right? If you're going to take out a Facebook ad, you need to know as much about your target audience as possible. Nonprofits don't tend to think that way. And in fact, most clients, to be fair, most clients that I've worked with, they think, oh, my target audience is everybody. Everybody on the planet can benefit from my product.
My product is good for everyone.
Absolutely. Well, that's great. But, as a student of acting and drama, Shakespeare is so universal because he's so specific. So we don't live in Padua or in Verona or in, where is Othello set? Sorry, it dropped out of my mind for a second. Or in Scotland with Macbeth. But the story is so specific and at the same time so universal because we all have seen these people in our lives. We've all been some of these people. And it's only through the specific that you could reach the broad audience. If Shakespeare just said, oh, people don't like each other. Oh, there's racism. Oh, there's anti-Semitism, whatever it might be. People would just say, okay, that's a great platitude and move on.
Yeah.
If you want to connect, you've got to get in there. So to come back to answer your question, Marianne, that's really where I start from. I start from what does your organization do best? What does your organization want to achieve online? How can we expand your mission there? And who are the people that you are seeking to attract to your website that are going to help you make your impact?
Fantastic. And I just want to mention, for those that have joined us since the beginning of the show, we have Boris from the, he's social media and .org strategy. And we're talking about marketing and media ideas that work. And specifically today, we're talking about nonprofits in areas that you might not necessarily be aware of. So if you have questions, drop them in the session. If you do a /Q, we can ask those questions, and we want to be able to have you get some questions answered. If you have an idea or you have a thought, just drop it in there, and we'd love to answer those questions or at least talk about it. So, Boris, one of the things about storytelling is it's a beautiful thing is you can draw people in, and, as we relate back to the acting part of the equation, at the last minute of each episode that has a series, they always draw you in and say, oh, what's going to happen? What's behind the door? Is he going to jump? Is it going to happen? How can you apply some storytelling techniques like that to .org strategy and marketing and media in a nonprofit arena? Is there some of that takeaway that you can kind of, that sizzle that gets created from a good storytelling episode? Have
Absolutely.
you seen any of that take place, and can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so there are two story structures. There's serialized and episodic, and then on TV. And then there's also, the movie structure, the 3-act movie structure. Depending on the campaign, you can use any of the above. You always begin, I will never forget, I was watching, just flipping channels one day, many years ago now, and most of you will hopefully remember the show ER. And in the opening minute, the teaser, if you will, Anthony Edwards' character is coming from a party where he just drank a little bit, and he comes upon a car accident, and some man's pinned underneath the steering wheel and or underneath the dashboard in the car accident, and he makes the on-the-spot decision to amputate the man's leg. And he's had some alcohol, so there's questions of whether or not he's fully competent, but he knows he's got to make that decision right in the moment. That was it. I did not flip a channel for the rest of the hour. I wanted to see how it turned out. In marketing terms, we have the structure AIDA, AIDA, attention, interest, desire, action. And so what you're talking about is in TV terms, it's the stinger, or it is the tease for the next episodes, the setup for the next episode. That is the action in marketing terms, right? So the action that the people that are writing the TV show, that the writers are trying to get you to do, is set your DVR, tune in for next time, whatever it has to be, to get your eyeballs back on the TV show for next week. In online storytelling, you want also a progression to your final goal. So in .org strategy, in the courses that I'm designing, there's a call to action at the end of each piece of content. And its goal is not necessarily the big goal, right? We don't just want to say, hey, hi, I'm so-and-so, I do this, now give me money. What we want to do is provide people value all the way along what I call the impact funnel. So in marketing, we have our lead funnel, we have marketing funnels of all sorts. In nonprofit, there are impact funnels. So you use all of the different aspects of your online presence, whether it be social media, Facebook, podcasts, videos, whatever it is, and you guide them through the impact funnel until you are ready for the big call to action. And you're going to lose some people along the way, but ultimately your biggest fans, the people who you are really telling a great story to that can relate to the story, they're going to stay with you to the end and want to be part of the story.
That's awesome.
We have a question too on the
side. I was going to say, and it looks like Brian.
Hi, Brian. I can't read the full question there. Oh, I see. Can you talk about storytelling on different social platforms? How should we tell our stories on YouTube, Facebook, Snapchat, etc.? Thanks, Brian.
Great questions.
Yeah, that's a great question. And the answer is complicated, but the short answer is natively. So each platform is best suited for different types of storytelling, and in many ways best suited to find different audiences. So if you've got a nonprofit that's trying to appeal to younger audiences, you might want to be on Snapchat and on Twitter and on Instagram. If you're trying to appeal to a certain demographic of, say, primarily Pinterest appeals to women who are, who have disposable income. That's fantastic. They're still cause affiliated. They can still be excited about a cause, and you could find them there. Visuals will play an important role in most of the storytelling platforms, but again, they'll have to be adjusted to each one, right? Each platform also has its own rules, like Facebook. If you want to do a promoted post, if you want to boost it to reach a wider audience, which, by the way, Facebook is increasingly a pay-to-play platform. People are still just realizing that. It's been happening for a year and a half now, where if you want your audience to see your post, you actually have to pay Facebook to get it out there. But if you have too much text in your post, then in your visual, if you create like one of those inspirational quotes, those are really hard to promote. So hopefully they'll go viral on Facebook, but honestly, probably not. You have a better chance on Instagram or on even Pinterest to do something like that. Or you create, like I create templates for all of my clients where they are compliant with Facebook, where only 20%, as Facebook requires, of the visual space is text. That way, if it's a big picture of, say, for Martin Luther King Day, a large picture of Martin Luther King, and on the side or on the bottom, a quote by him that is not just something that he said, but something that relates to your mission. That's actually vital because you want to, again, stay on story. Right. But you put that quote in 20%, now suddenly you could boost it. And that's going to go broad, that's going to go wide. It actually touches on another aspect that I talk about, which is planning zeitgeist, right? Zeitgeist is whatever is in the air, whatever people are talking about. It's the spirit of the time is
the highlight.
Yeah, it's literally the spirit of the time. So that certain holidays, people are going to be talking about certain things, certain events are happening, whether it's the elections, the debates, or any holiday that's coming up, whether it's religious or secular or national. If the holiday in any way ties into your mission, or if you can somehow tie it in, that's going to be a great time to create a blog post, a social media post, a video, whatever is easiest for you and engages most of your audience about that subject, because people are more likely to share it because they're thinking about it anyway.
Boris, I have a question. So you have all these different social media platforms, and we know the top ones. So if you're concentrating on the top 4, say, that's a lot of work that you just described. So what are you saying to these nonprofits, that they need to get a volunteer for each one, and they need to have, okay, so you're shaking your head. So please, because I'm getting nervous now with all that work.
Yeah, so there are definitely strategies to minimize the amount of work that you have to do to customize to each platform.
Okay, good.
But the number one thing I say is it's about quality, not quantity. You don't have to be everywhere in order to reach your audience, right? There's a large overlap of people between Facebook and Twitter, let's say, or Twitter and Snapchat, or any of the platforms. Get your storytelling honed on one platform, on 2 platforms first. Really get your messaging across, and then see how can you adapt it, I should say, to the other platforms. Then you could use tools. So I create templates for a lot of my clients, where it'll just be an easy, almost drag and drop system for them to just create a new post, so that when you have a blog post, you created an article, you then can...
You're making me feel better now, Boris. I can quit sweating.
I'm so glad. But then you can basically just drag and drop and follow, so that you could get that newsletter out, get the Facebook post up, promote the Facebook post, do all of the different things. Now, it still takes time, but it's going to take a lot less time because you're not going to have to guess, and you figured out the strategies that work.
Well, and that's one of the things that I want to mention to everybody in the room is that, the strategy is one part, and the implementation and developing some workflow around that is also key. Yeah. Otherwise, you just become overwhelmed and you're thinking, okay, what do I need to do next?
Exactly.
And it's really key to make sure that you develop a workflow and a system that allows you to get this out very easily and not be overwhelmed by it. So
I have a quick story about overwhelm.
Okay.
So Russ and I were working, excuse me, together the other day, and he saw me writing notes on different pieces of paper. So he looked at me, he goes, with love, okay? He's like, Marion, really, that's the third piece of paper, little tiny pieces of paper. I've seen you make notes on. He said, the madness has to stop. You have to get a system so that because I'm always constantly looking, now where did I put that note? And they're everywhere. So I see.
I know I wrote it down someplace.
It's terrible. So I see that in everything that we're doing. We need a system. And if you don't know the system, you need to reach out to someone like you who has that system already that you can share.
Mm-hmm.
And that's absolutely critical for nonprofits because they're already taxed for resources. Yes. And a lot of turnover as a result of volunteers.
Yes. Right.
So one of the things that you have to develop as a nonprofit, and I'm sure that you've helped others, Boris, is, build a system that you can drop anyone into, teach them very quickly, and then they can get working and make an impact in that task.
Right. Yeah, it's almost templating in a lot of cases. I mean, great templates, but it's a fill in the blank template that you can customize each time. But you have a simple process that you could follow to create your blog post that's going to reach your audience. You have criteria you're going to meet. You have your Google alerts set to certain topics. It's a content curation strategy that I advise a lot of people to do. And then that once the certain alert comes in, it goes into this task management system, which then goes to this person who then duplicates the previous post and customizes it and changes it into the new post that then gets shared into the customized, let's say, MailChimp template, and then goes out to Facebook. Yeah, absolutely. A step-by-step process with as many templates as possible so that there's less guesswork. Of course, you can always, if you have the ability and the resources, you can always test to optimize results. And that's another thing that everybody should be doing is checking their analytics. But step one is first create the system, then you could test it rather than just trying a whole lot of different things to see what works, what doesn't work, because you lose track of it all and it's information overwhelm.
Yeah,
we have one final question. I'm sorry, we're almost out of time. So Steve Baker is asking, what would you say the challenge for nonprofits? Is it the same as in the profit world and overcoming obscurity? Oh, good.
That's a great question, Steve.
It is.
Yeah. How do you overcome obscurity?
There you go. How do you get seen?
So it's actually, it is a great question. The strategy is similar, but I do think it's actually harder in a lot of ways for nonprofits because oftentimes they don't have the marketing budget to get out there and to tell the whole world, look, we exist, we do these great things. Again, I'll have to say that I come back to storytelling and finding your audience on the platforms that they already exist in, building your lists. It's a grind, if you will. There are tools specifically for nonprofits, though, that make it easier in a lot of ways than for-profits. For example, Facebook just launched their Facebook for Nonprofits site. It's currently terrible, I have to say, but it's wonderful that they're actually trying to do something. The information on there is just ubiquitous information that's been around for ages. The tools on there don't exist yet. They say, oh, sign up, we'll let you know if it happens. And they're just experimenting at the moment. But the good news is Facebook is recognizing the importance of nonprofits and trying to see how they can give back. Google has been doing a lot for nonprofits for years now. If you sign up, if you are an accredited 501c3, there's a few other types of nonprofit statuses that it'll work with. It checks the database and gives you access to Google Apps for free, Google Earth for free, up to $10,000 a month of AdWords for free. I mean, it's really, there's a lot that nonprofits can take advantage of. Of course, you have to then be able to take advantage of all of that, which is the other issue of resources.
Well, and all they need to do is call you. So how do they get a hold of you, Boris?
Thanks, Russ, for the closing plug there. So you could find me at boris@speedoflike.com. That's L-I-K-E, and I think that's .org strategy. So I've got the two websites. Speed of Like is my more broad, broad consulting practice that really applies to a lot of different organizations. .org strategy is the new one that I've created, specifically trying to help nonprofits. At the moment, there's a landing page there for the first course, which isn't even fully live yet. I've edited it. It's coming within the next 2 weeks. But you could send me an email at boris@speedoflike or boris@.orgstrategy.com. Let me know that you're interested. I'll add you to my email list and happy to answer any questions that I can. Maybe even hop on a Google Hangout. And you know, if I can help and I have the spare time, I always try to. Well,
Boris, you've always added value in my life, and I appreciate everything you do. And it's truly an honor to have you on the show today. And what we're doing here is, I believe, important work, and it will help nonprofits out in the future. Video is very powerful, and with the abundance of marketing material and posts and everybody getting online, it's a very noisy world. So it's nice to be able to connect with true professionals like yourself. And I love the fact that you took the time out of your day to get here and answer a few questions for our audience. And we're going to continue to share this information. And Marion, it's always a pleasure to see you bright and early in the morning. And
I'm the morning person. That was a joke.
She's the morning person. I'm not.
Thank you for being here with us on Future Media TV. Please join us on futuremediaassociation.com because we have a lot of things to share and to offer. And don't forget that tonight at 8 p.m. Central Time, we're going to be here live answering your questions on media development, marketing, and anything that has to do with media. Creating, marketing, developing, editing, it doesn't matter. Whatever it is that you have a question on, please come and join us. Thanks again, and we'll see you again on Thursday, 8:30.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Boris.
Thank you, Marianne. Thank you, Russ.
Take care. Have a wonderful day.